welcome to G-Man Gaming and Reviews. Today's video is going to be on creating a secure and defensible settlement in Fallout 4 for beginners. Right, so there's a couple of things that we're going to be covering today. The first is strategic layout, the next is effective use of resources, the next is turret and defenses, the next is lighting and visibility, and the last thing is guard stations and patrols. Now, when we talk about strategic layout, it depends very heavily on the settlement that you are defending. So your first settlement, Sanctuary, starts off pretty defensible because you've got a lake going around it, and really you've only got this one main choke point here. That being said, you've got this whole side here, which is I've actually added all of this stuff to make it difficult for enemies to cross from that location. But I've actually put walls around the settlement. But Sanctuary by default is very defensible, as long as you make sure to put walls around the settlement. That's one way you can do it. Just be aware that even if you put walls around the settlement, when you fast travel back here, you may still get enemies spawning inside. But when I talk about strategic layout, we're talking about like understanding the layout of the territory and choke points. So one main choke point in Sanctuary is here. Right, a lot of raiders tend to come across the bridge, so this is a potential choke point, right? So I'm not going to go too much into this. It depends on the layout of the territory. Some areas are much more difficult to defend, simply put because they don't really have many choke points. So one example is Ten Pines Bluff. So you'll see here Ten Pines Bluff is much more difficult to defend. There's no choke points. It's like out in the area. It's just out in the middle of nowhere. So as a result of it, you're going to need to get creative. So what I've done is I've set up turrets, machine gun turrets, like all around the perimeter. What I'm actually planning to do is I've built this little building in order to put beds for my settlers, but what I'm actually planning to do is I'm going to build a... Let me just get rid of... No, we don't want to do that. I'm actually planning to build like a little bridge, a little like terrace over here where I'm going to put heavy machine guns so they've got a good field of fire coming over the valley on that side. And I think I might put some down here as well. So you can get creative, even in territory, even in settlements where it's kind of open season, because there's not really that many choke points like this one. But yeah, so you really got to take it to the layout. In some areas it'll be easy to defend. In other ones it'll be less difficult. It'll be more difficult, sorry. But you can still make do with what you've got. Now, the next thing that we were going to cover was the effective use of resources. So I'm just going to head back to Sanctuary. Now, the other thing that we're going to talk about is the effective use of resources, particularly when we're coming to, like, walls. So as you can see here, what I have done is I have built a perimeter of concrete around and created these walls. Now with concrete, the way that it works is that if you go to your structures and you go to concrete and you go to floors, this one here, the concrete foundation, is actually what you use. Now the reason that I put concrete around was to stop rad scorpions from burrowing underneath. Now, I haven't really had any problems with rad scorpions since I did this. So concrete is very, very useful, but it's also quite readily available and cheap to get your hands on. When you go in settlements like Sanctuary, you'll find lots of like concrete blocks that you can scrap in order to get more concrete. Another effective material, another effective sort of resource is gears. The reason being is that you use gears to build turrets. So you can actually find a whole bunch of gears in where is it? What's up here? Blank. Corvega assembly plant. You can find a whole bunch of gears here, and this is on its way to Diamond City. So this is an area where you can find lots of gears. Just be aware that it's heavily populated with raiders. So when you go there the first time, it might be a bit of a difficult fight early on. But that's where you can get like effective use of gears. Now in this game, it doesn't really matter whether you use wood walls or concrete foundations or whatever. Enemies can't destroy these barriers, right? So as a result of that, it doesn't really make a difference. So the next thing we're going to talk about is turrets and defenses. Now, there are traps in this game. I wouldn't recommend using them unless you're experimenting, because they have to be reset after you use them. So we're going to talk about this. This guide is more for beginners, so we're going to talk about turrets. Now, you'll notice here that your basic machine gun turret requires steel, circuitry, gears, and oil, right? Now, you'll also see here that it produces a certain amount of defense. Now, you always want your defense to be significantly higher than your water and food, right, in order to dissuade raiders from coming, right? Now, there are other turrets, and I generally don't use these because these require power, the laser turret and whatnot, whereas the machine gun turret produces the same amount of defense than some of the higher level turrets, but it doesn't require any power. But your basic machine gun turret is fine for beginners. You can see here that I've set it up at choke points. Now, the big advantage is that I've got some heavy machine gun turrets here. This is a machine gun turret. So the big advantage of machine gun turrets is that they don't need... they're set and forget. Once you set them up, you don't need to do anything with them unless they get destroyed, right? So turrets will be your base defense starting early on. Initially, it'll be guard posts because you won't have enough resources for turrets. But you'll see here that I've created a perimeter of turrets going all around here because I couldn't put walls. So we're going to have perimeter turrets. I should probably put like turrets here. I should probably set up like a guard base here and put some turrets so that... But I don't think I've had too many enemies come through here. But yeah, something to keep in mind. So turrets are very, very useful. I wouldn't necessarily... the other turrets are more powerful, but it's more about getting your defense stat up. The next thing is lighting and visibility. Now, this isn't something that's normally discussed, but you'll notice here that I've got these subway lights, right? And this construction light here. I should probably set up a spotlight here, which I think I'm going to... I'll do it later. Now, the reason that lights are so useful is they actually deter raiders from coming, potentially. Setting them up is quite simple to do. So when it comes to setting up lights, all you need to do is go to your lights area, and you've got a whole bunch of different types of lights here. I chose the subway light because you can put it on walls. Now, in the previous video that I did on settlements, I showed you how to use power generators, but lights are a little bit different. So what you need to do is you'll see here that your lights have got a requirement of electricity. So what you do is you create a generator first, and then what you do is you create a power pylon. And you can find power pylons in here, in connectors and switches, right? Now, once you create a power pylon and you hook it up to a generator, it will automatically power any lights in the vicinity. So you'll notice that I did that with the two of them. So if I turn this off, oops, not that. If I turn this off, the lights will go off. If I turn it back on, lights go on. You probably should set up a spotlight, but for now this is relatively useful. So that's the effective use of lights. Now, the last thing that we were going to cover is guard stations and patrols. Now, guard stations are probably the earliest of the defenses that you're going to come across, because when you first come out of Sanctuary or Corvette, when you first come out of Concord, you're probably not going to have too many gears, so you're going to be relying on guard stations. Now, your guard station produces 2 defense. Now, just be aware, you have to assign a settler to this, right? So I will show you how to do that. So, yes. So if we were to click on enter, hover over the settler, click on enter to click on command, and then hover over this and click on assign, that will assign that settler to the guard post. Now, you can actually assign settlers to up to 3 guard posts. So what you can see is I've created a guard post here, and you'll see how where it says requires, it's in green. That means that there is a settler occupying this post, which is Preston Garvey. Now, in actual fact, when you assign a settler to a post, a settler can actually have a patrol and mark multiple posts. So you'll see here that this settler is also assigned. So if I was to create another one like here, you'll see here that it's also no, it requires somebody. I would have to assign Preston Garvey to this, because you can see that the requires is in red. But this is a very good way early on of getting your defense up, because you could probably get 6 if you assign a settler to 3 guard posts, and it becomes a patrol essentially. They'll go from one guard post to the other patrolling. So that's pretty good early on, but later on, or towards the mid-game, I would just use turrets. I don't really see any reason to use guard posts. I just put them in there because it'll be something that you'll be using as a beginner, which is very important. And that was pretty much our guide to settlement defenses for Fallout 4. This was G-Man Gaming and Reviews. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Check out the links in the description below for merch and a course on how to design websites with no coding, if you're interested. And if not, I will see you on the next one. Please please comment on anything that you'd like, or anything that you didn't like, or anything that you'd like me to do in a video on next. It would be very much appreciated. Alright, thank you for everyone for watching, and have a great day. Goodbye.